Okay, I'm going to go through each one of these things, and I'm using the key. I'm not going to write down everything. Just make notes on the key as I go through. Now, part of your test is going to have this information in it, so you better know how to do kind of all of it. I'm not saying which ones, but more than half of it are problems out of here. So anyways, in the first example, I have a -2 and I have a -3, and we say -2 is greater than -3 because remember, it's negative numbers. The bigger you are, the smaller you are. So the question is, what happened going from this picture to this picture? And I think we've already figured it out, probably in class, that it's been multiplied by -2. And since it's multiplied, and you can see what happened, actually it's been +2, not -2, multiplied by +2, and you can see the inequality holds up. It's still -4 is greater than -6. It's multiplication property of inequality. Let's look at number 2. All right, going right along. Boom. All right. Number 2 states you have -1 and -4. And all of a sudden something happens where now you have 4 and then you have 1. Well, what has happened is that you've added something to it. In this case, I've added 5. I added 5 to both of them, and look what happened. So this is the addition property of an inequality. Okay, good. Now let's look at the next guy. Down here. This guy, oh, we have 6, -6, and this is 9. And something happens now, it's -2, and it's 3. Okay, so if you look at what happened here, something must have happened. Well, going from here to here, you either subtracted 4, but that would be, I mean, that means this would be a 5, and it's not. But what you did was you divided by 3, all right? So both sides were divided by 3. So it's division by 3. So that's the division property of inequality, okay? And looking at number 4, hopefully you're checking your answers as we go. This is really, it's 1 to 3, and then it becomes -1, and this becomes just 1. Clearly what happened to this thing, there's been a subtraction. How far? 2. So because you have 1 minus 2, it's going to be less than 3 minus 2. And you can see how that would work out. Okay. Now going right down. Draw the result and write the inequality. Tell which property is illustrated. So you have 1 is bigger than -2. You multiply both sides by 3. 1 times 3 and -2 times 3. 3 bigger than 6. That's a multiplication property. There's a lot of these. This, of course, a couple of these will be on the test. Just letting you know. You have 5 is greater than 3. If I subtract 3 from both sides, you end up with the situation 2 is greater than 0. Subtraction property of inequality. Here we have -4, and this is -3. If we add 2 to both sides, this is the addition property of inequality. You still end up with the same thing, -2, as far as being less than -1. The sign does not change. It only changes on multiplication and division if you're doing it with a negative number. Right? So now we have 2 and 4, both dividing both sides by 2. You see the sign's not going to change. It just becomes a 1 and a 2. It's the division property of inequality. And now we get a change. Number 9. Here we go. We have a 1 and a -1. Multiply both sides by -2. 1 times -2, put a question mark. And 1 times -2. You find out that this, which was positive, now becomes negative. And that which was negative becomes positive because you're multiplying 2 negative numbers together. That's the multiplication property of inequality. Looking at this one, you're going to add -4 to each one. So if this is -1 plus -4, and this is 3 plus -4, your numbers still kind of pan out the way they should. So it's -5 less than -1. That's the addition property of inequality. And this one, oh, we have a thing. It's -2. So we have 4, -4, and you have a 6. You divide both sides by -2. You're going to flip the sign. That's what they're showing you. Flip the sign. You went from -4 is less than 6. Now 2 is greater than -3 because if you divide a positive number by a negative number, you get a negative number. Negative number by a negative number, you get a positive number. And this is the division property of inequality. Nice. So look at number 12. Draw the result and write the inequality. Tell which property is illustrated. Okay, -1 is greater than 3. If you subtract 4 from both sides, right, you end up with -5 is greater than -7. That's the subtraction property of inequality. They're showing these things over and over again. Of course, the test is going to have this, And obviously, it's good to know this. And then they have questions you got to answer, right? Just letting you know. So here, draw the result and show the inequality. So you have 4 and minus 2. 4 squared root minus 2. Divide both sides by -2. And look what happens. 4 divided by -2, that's going to be -8. -2, right? It's just going to be 1. I mean, sorry. 4 divided by -2 is going to be -2. -2 divided by, and that's going to be a 1. So you have -2 is less than 1. That's the division property of inequality. Nice. Now you're going to multiply by a negative number. This always flips the sign. So 1 is less than 2. If I multiply it, remember, 1 times -3 is going to be -3, right? And 2 times -3 is going to be -6. So where the sign now is going to flip because -6 is smaller than -3, right? 1 is less than 2. Now it's going to be -3 is greater than -6. It's going to change it, right? -2 and -3, you add 4 to both sides. -2 plus 4, and -3 plus 4, you end up being 2 is greater than 1. That's the addition property of inequality. 3 is less than 5. If I add -5 to both sides, 3 plus -5 and 5 plus -5, get -2 is less than 0. That's the addition property inequality. Okay, now they got to throw another curveball out here. -2 is less than 2, right? Multiply both sides by -2. So -1 times -2 makes it a +2, or 2 times -2 makes it a -4. You got to flip the sign, right? That's the flip. That's multiplication of inequality. Most of these are easy because just if you add something or subtract something, you're not changing the sign. It's only if you divide or multiply by a negative number do you get something weird. Add 6 to both sides, -4 plus 6 or 1 plus 6, you're going to get 2 and 7, and that's the addition property. And -2 is less than 2. Divide both by -2, you're going to flip the sign. So you're going to get 1 is greater than -1. So this is interesting. They're going to show you something, and then you're going to deduce what's happening in this case. This is going to go 7 and 4, and it ends up at 5 and 2. Well, you write the numbers back down number line and showing this is what happened. They both went down 2. So 7 is less than 4. Add 2 to both sides, so it's -5 and -2. That's the addition property inequality. These aren't too hard. We did like one in class, right? Look at this one. You have -6, and you're going to go -3, and you have a 2 that's going to go to a -1. Well, that's kind of strange. What's going on there? Usually, if they're both going towards the middle, that's going to tell us something. I'm going to tell you right now, this is wrong. It should be here, right? And it should not be here. I'm going to actually take this. I'm going to wake this thing out. Watch this. Look at this, right? That should not be there. That's a misprint. So just letting you know, it really should be that, okay? Because watch what happens when they give you the rest of the information. They're saying -6, 2, and it goes to -3. Well, they had it at -2. That's not right. So, and 1. So there's an error in the book. Just letting you know. Okay. Just as long as you see it, that's important. Right, here we go. Anyways, coming down, next one. You have a -3 and a -1. Here's -3. It's going all the way to -7, and -1 goes to -5. -4 must be added. Subtract 4 from both sides, so it's -5 and -7. Subtraction property of inequality. This is solve the inequality, check your answer justified, then write the solution set. I say graph these because it looks better, but the solution set just means what numbers qualify to fit for this. You can write says numbers less than or equal to 13. You don't really write all that out. But if you were to graph this, and I think we did several of these in class, you just put a line down here, here, and then, of course, put -13. Oops, -13. And this would be -26, and this would be a 0, right? This is good stuff to know, okay? Part of it is when you're doing these things is trying to keep track of the concept of a number line, okay? I'm gonna put a number line out here, and I see some people get this confused, and it's not meant to be confusing, but it's kind of weird. We have 0 here. I'm gonna use this thing as my example. I'm gonna have 0, I can have a 13, and I can have a 26. Over here, I can have a minus 13. Oops, minus 13. And then a minus 26 down here, okay? I can break this apart, okay, at the 0. So I can make 2 more number lines, just making them shorter. This is what we kind of do in class, right? There's a visual on this to make this easier for us to write, because number lines are really good, except when you're trying to explain what's going on, it's nice to keep them small enough they can fit in your work area, right? You don't want to make a giant one like this. So what I tell people to do is, if it's a positive number, 0 is going to go on this side, right? Which in this case is your left side. And on your right side would be double the number, 26. This makes it easy. If it's a negative number, the 0 is now going to go on the right side. And double the number minus 26 goes over here, right? On the left side. But if you stick them together, you got one big number line, okay? That's kind of what I say. So if I was to look at that last question we had, right? It said a minus 13 squared equal to a, or a is less than or equal to minus 13. So a is less than negative 13. Remember, you're always reading from the letter. The letter is less than minus 13. The letter is the line. So what's that mean? You could graph this one of 2 ways. Okay, less than or equal to, here's minus 13. Okay, and I guess on this chart, it would be here, minus 13. Okay, and you say it's less than or equal to, so I'm going to grab the line picture here, and I'm going to be going this way, right? That looks good. They both look the same on the different number lines, but that sort of makes sense, right? Cool. All right. So once again, 24, C is greater than 19. I'm going to draw these things out kind of small, right? Right here, not big number lines. There's no sense in it. So we have 19 here. We put a 0 here. We put what? 38 here. C is greater than that, but I have to have an empty circle. It's going to go that direction on a number line. Okay? And let's do the next one. This says E is less than or equal to minus 1 after you've worked the problem. Right. So we're checking our answers more or less. Here's our number line. Oh, like it when it's straight. Okay, here's my number line. Okay, and I want to put some numbers on here. We're going to put a minus 1. 0 would go on that end. Minus 2 goes on this end. E is less than or equal to this, so it's going to be a filled-in circle. And then it's going to go in this direction. So it's less than or equal to. Oh, nice, right? Let's look at 26. It says H is less than minus 12. You should be able to solve these. You just add 2 here, it becomes minus 12, right? And when it comes to graphing, this is where people get a little trickified, and that's why I'm going through it a little bit in detail here. I put my number here. I put my center here, and we'll put minus 12. We'll put my 0 here, but minus 24. It says H is less than that, empty circle. Take this, make a line, and go this way, right? That makes sense. Okay. Let's grab this guy down here. 27. It says R is greater than 7. Okay. So let's grab my line, put that on here. R is greater than 7. So put this here. 7 goes in the center. 14, 0. Greater than or equal to. Cover this up. Grab a line. It's going to go this way. Nice. Okay. 28. K is greater than 30. I think everybody sees where this is going now. I don't think I have to do all of them. I can just show you the answers after this because it's a lot of the same, right? 30, that means you put 0 here, you put 60 here. It's bigger than that. You're going to go this way with your number line, right? Okay. Now, let's close that. Let's do this. Let's take a look. A lot of these, you just want to check your answer. graphing them, you should be familiar enough with it now. I don't have to graph each one of these things. U is greater or equal to 14. D is less than 11. This one says, when you do something, obviously you add these together, you get a 2, and then you subtract it. It's going to be the side. It's minus 10 is greater than or equal to E. This would be 12 is greater than W. Minus 1 is less than or equal to R. And 15 is less than Y. And that should make sense. Now, these are the ones we've been doing in class extensively. And you should be very familiar with them. Shouldn't be too taxing, right? So subtract 16 from both sides, you'll get 12. And because the way it is, you would graph in this direction. That's 35. This is 36. Should be minus 25. M is greater or equal to minus 25. 37 should be this. B is greater than minus 4. And this is T is less than or equal to 16. And hopefully you're doing well with this thing. 8 is less than N, so anything above 8 would be fine. And then Q is less than minus 3, which means empties are going minus 3 and going down. Combine the like terms and solve. This would have been a little tricky, but not. This would have been minus 12. Then you add 12 to it, add 12 to both sides, makes it a minus 2. Okay. We did combine like terms, a lot of it already, but Z minus 4 minus 8 greater minus 14. Add these together. So Z minus 12 is greater than minus 14 plus 12 plus 12. Oops, missed that. Z is greater than minus 2. That's how that works. And then graphing it should be fairly simple, right? After doing so many of them, you start getting, oh, this isn't bad. Same thing with this one. You put these together first. So you have minus, let go. Boom, boom. You have minus 5 is greater than or equal to 18 plus X minus 9. You put these together first. So you get 9. That's here minus 5, and you have X on the outside. Minus 9, minus 9. That's why you get 19, minus 14. So less than or equal to, it's greater than equal to. I almost messed that up. Greater than or equal to X. That's why that's the way it is. Okay. Trying to keep the video from getting really, really long, because by this time you've either done the work or you haven't, so you can take a look at the answers. This is 43, and this is 44. 45, and 46. These were the word problems. You can look at them. They're kind of interesting. They give you an equation based on how you're reading it. This one, P plus 14 is greater than or equal to 38. I'm not going to have any word problems on this quiz, just letting you know. Taylor talks about, just can't, almost 13, but less than that, right? And the last one was net. Okay. And there you go.